Hello, I'd like to talk about the Uncanny Valley and what that means to game developers. So, the Uncanny Valley is an expression that's meant to illustrate sort of there's this graph with a valley in it, and the closer you get to rendering a realistic person, the more the details stand out and the creepier it can look. So let's use an example. So here's Beyond Two Souls box art, and it's there. Maybe it's focusing on it. That's Willem Dafoe, and he looks pretty creepy. I mean, to me. Well, I mean, I guess one could argue that Willem Dafoe always looks creepy, but this one looks really weird. Like his face looks wrong, and the I don't know, it just looks kind of weird and unnatural. His lips look dry, and so here I probably talked too much about The Incredibles since I worked on the game, but here's Mr. Incredible and Syndrome and Mrs. Incredible. I don't know how easily you can see all these, and they look cool, right? Like, they're very stylized, and they don't look creepy. So basically, and you can see this, is even as time passes, we haven't gotten really over the Uncanny Valley. You look at something like Pixar's latest movies trailer. I forget what it was called. I feel dumb now. It's about the people thoughts in the mind. Wow, that was not very eloquent. But anyway, you can find it, I'm sure. And I thought it was interesting, they're still using really stylized characters, even though the rendering technology has come a long way since The Incredibles. In The Incredibles, they had to do a lot of work with the skin. And I know this because I got to see early versions of the game, and there was someone from Pixar who introduced it. Sorry, early versions of the movie when I was working on the game. There was someone from Pixar who was showing, like, the lighting tests, and there were a bunch of unfinished shots, and it was really funny. That was an exciting thing for me as a Pixar fan. But even with the newer ones, they're better at rendering skin, they're better at creating realistic characters. Still, it can be kind of creepy, and if you don't stylize it. And this is probably an older example, but, I mean, like, the Polar Express was creepy. I don't know if you guys saw the movie, probably not, it wasn't very good, but, like, the characters look like they're, like, marionettes of dead bodies. Like, I mean, it was creepy, and, like, you know, they had Tom Hanks in it. He played, like, every role, and it's like, how do you make Tom Hanks creepy? Like, Tom Hanks is one of those lovable people, and yet he looked super creepy in the movie, and it's just because they got, you know, they couldn't get all the details, so then it just looked like weird and wrong and some sort of monster. But then, if you stylize it, then you don't have to worry about that, and so that's something that we've been thinking about a lot for the next game, and you know, we definitely want to do something, you know, artsy and unique looking. I think that was a strength of Neverending Nightmares, that it looked different, and so we'll try to do something that looks different. You know, we're experimenting with other ways to make it look different than what we did on Neverending Nightmares. So fingers crossed. Well, I mean, we're kind of hopeful that'll work out, because then not only would it look different from every other game, but it would look different from Neverending Nightmares as well. And potentially it could look even cooler. I mean, I don't know, I really love the Edward Gorey style, so I don't know if it would look better, but it might be more appealing to some people, or you know, I don't know. But one of the things we struggle with is that Uncanny Valley, and even if you're using like a 2D stylized whatever art style, you really run into that Uncanny Valley problem, I think. Like, if we were to do realistic, face and body proportions, I think people would find it looks a little weird. I mean, like, for example, the Cat Lady. I really liked the game The Cat Lady, but I thought the art was kind of weird, and I think, it sort of fell into that Uncanny Valley, at least for me, and I'm sure there's plenty of other people who liked the art, but, like, I thought that it was, meant to be realistic-ish, and because it didn't really, get everything perfect, that it looked kind of weird. The characters looked off, and so that's something we're trying to balance, because if we have like realistic face proportions, a realistic head size, if the character looks like a real person, then people will notice all the differences. Oh, maybe the arms are too long or too short or something, and a big thing is like animation, especially facial animation. So if we have a realistic looking face, then all of a sudden we have to do realistic facial animation, which, I mean, you can do a lot of things, with your face, whereas, for speaking in Neverending Nightmares, we just did this, and we didn't even, like, lip sync it, and, we just, like, had a couple expressions, and then just swapped them in and out, and, I mean, that was a big time saver, and, I mean, while, if you look at the faces, especially when they're not, when they're, talking to each other, and their faces just don't react or emote in any way. I think that's a little disappointing, but I mean, that would have been a lot of work, even though we have like a few conversations, but really to get the faces to emote on anything but the close-ups would have been a challenge. Yeah, so basically we are hoping to find a good balance with the Uncanny Valley, and in terms of creating art that looks appealing, aesthetically pleasing, but isn't too close to looking like actual people, because then we have to then there's the Uncanny Valley trap, where you try really hard, you put even more time into your stuff, but then it just looks wrong, and it's tough. And I mean, certainly, Kevin Spacey looks quite impressive in the latest Call of Duty, but I mean, he still looks a little off. But I mean, we don't have the Call of Duty budget, I'm sure they spent a lot of time into getting the shaders right for the skin, and there's a lot of complicated things with performance capture and things where they like take normal maps for each color independently, the red, green, and blue light, just because apparently that makes a difference with how your skin reflects, and so on and so forth. And we really just don't want to go down that avenue because we can't afford to. We're a very small company on a tight budget, so we're definitely steering clear of the Uncanny Valley and trying to avoid that. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully you like the new art we come up with, although it's going to be a long while before we announce it. Anyway.